Hello everyone, and welcome to a quick video about Restricted Sparring. So as some of you may know, I recently started a 100% run for Pokémon Sword and Shield to see how fast we could do that. And one of the big things that I ran into while doing this is the Restricted Sparring format. I've been looking around quite a lot, and though I've seen some resources about Restricted Sparring, I noticed there have been very few places that just offer you, okay, here is a full set of teams that you can use that work even if you don't have a lot of competitive knowledge. So that's what we're going to get into today. Now before we get started, to everyone new to the channel, hello, I'm Cruel. I am a Pokemon speedrunner of just about every single Pokemon game. Usually doing a lot of weird and wacky categories like 100%, catch-em-alls, you name it, really. Now, the reason I wanted to make this is I noticed there is not, like, a lot of the Restricted Sparring, they kind of offer you a baseline, what to start with, but then they kind of leave it from there. And I figured I would go a little bit more in depth on teams that I would recommend using, teams that are generally fairly consistent even if you have no knowledge about competitive, and that's the big key here. Now, I've played competitive myself. I have done some VGC in the past, not very extensively, really just in an online format, but I know the basics. I'm going to assume that the people that as you watch this, and if you want to beat this, that you have some rough knowledge of what EVs and IVs are, but really that's about it. And I'm going to not assume that you know how to properly set this up. So, first of all, let me explain what Restricted Sparring is for those of you that don't know. So the rules of Restricted Sparring are fairly straightforward. They are 3v3 battles in a singles format, so 1v1 versus you versus your opponent. But the thing is, you can only use Pokemon of one type. Now, these can be multi-type Pokemon, so for example, for the normal type, you could use Obstagoon, which is a normal dark type. That's fine, but your team has to be a mono-type team. Another big catch here is you can only get healed twice between battles. So after every battle, you get the question whether you want to continue and get healed, or completely quit. You can only use this continue and get healed twice. And the thing is, there's 5 battles you need to win to complete a type. So for example, if you want to complete normal type, you have to win 5 battles on normal type in order for it to count. So that's honestly the basic rule set. Generally speaking, that's something I'm going to just throw out there right away. You want to, generally speaking, be sure to heal after the 2nd and 4th battle, roughly. It's fine healing after the 1st and 3rd. It is fine to only heal once. That's all good. But generally speaking, you're probably aiming to heal between the 2nd and the 4th battles. And yeah, I think with that, let's get into it. I've actually quickly set up a set for normal type. I will say in advance, I have not beaten this for every type. I've done so for most types. I've routed out every single one of them, but I just haven't had the time to actually thoroughly test it on everything. Some teams will work better than others, some will not. But generally speaking, every team should be able to get you through Restricted Sparring decently well. That's the general thing that I'm going for here. I'm going to start off with one of the hardest types, the normal type here. In general, sometimes are just easier than others because there's just more powerful Pokemon available. Normal type is one of my... Well, personally, I find that one of the most difficult ones, especially if you don't have anyone to trade with. Now, luckily, Reddit is full of forums where you can trade with other people, which gets me immediately into my normal type team. For normal type, I would recommend Porygon-Z. There's one advantage that you as a player have over your opponents, and that is that you can Dynamax. Your opponents will never do that. What I would recommend is grab a Porygon-Z, specifically one with the Adaptability ability. I think that's the hidden ability. Nowadays, you can use ability capsules to make sure you get that. So you get Porygon-Z with Adaptability, Hyper Beam, you just Dynamax turn 1, and you just spam Hyper Beam on basically everything that isn't a Ghost-type Pokemon. I've got Dark Pulse, I think, to deal with Ghost types, and really that should get you through almost everything already. So in the back, I have a Snorlax, specifically a Snorlax with the moves Belly Drum, High Horsepower, Giga Impact, and Fire Punch. And I have an Obstagoon with Hone Claws, Brick Break, Double Edge, and Night Slash. That's generally what you can expect for normal type. I did not mean to Hyper Beam that. That's another small thing to watch out for, I suppose. Do note you always switch back to your top move after you get rid of the Dynamax. But yeah, anyway, that's for normal type. Normal type is honestly one of the easier types if you use specifically Porygon-Z, but you can get trolled a little bit. So a lot of the teams, what they kind of build around is being able to set up just a little bit and then go for it. And the next team is actually a great example of that, which is my Fire team, which leads a Blacephalon, Choice Specs Blacephalon, with Fire Blast, Shadow Ball, Solar Beam, and Hyper Beam. Again, it kind of assumes that you can Dynamax, though you wouldn't necessarily do that right away. The reason I would go for something like that is Blacephalon is powerful, but more importantly, its special attack gets boosted because of the Beast Boost after every single turn. And you'll see that a few times across my teams. I use a lot of Pokemon like that. In the back, I would then have Volcorona. Volcorona is really useful, actually. Volcorona with leftovers, and then Quiver Dance, Bug Buzz, Fire Blast, Giga Drain, and then Charizard with Life Orb, Flamethrower, Air Slash, Solar Beam, and Hyper Beam. All of these teams, by the way, will be in the description, so you can always, look them back up, find them, build them yourself, and go from there. Moving on to the Water team, I'm using Swampert, Dracofish, and G-Max Lapras. You can use the G-Max, I always forget what it's called, the Max Mushrooms from the Isle of Armor DLC to make sure that it's G-Max. Swampert with Earthquake, Ice Punch, Hammer Punch, and either Waterfall or Dive, depending on whether or not you have access to the TR for Waterfall. I kind of try to assume not using any TRs because, it's kind of difficult to get some of them. And I try to just kind of make it work with just TMs. So then for Dracofish, Dracofish is actually a bit of an interesting one because it's another one where I would strongly recommend specifically the Strong Jaw ability. So it's another great ability. Boosts the power of biting moves, such as, for example, Fish's Rend, which is kind of Dracofish's signature move. Give it a Choice Scarf, give it Fish's Rend. It kind of breezes through everything. It is worth noting, all of the NPCs do have EVs on all of their Pokemons, so they will actually have boosted 2 of their stats to the max. If you want to make sure that you do that yourself, get a clean Pokemon with nothing on it, and use, for example, if you want to boost speed, use like 26 Carboses on it, and you're done. That's generally how I tend to go about it. And for example, for this Porygon-Z, that's helpful because it'll make sure that you outspeed everything. Anyway, back to the team. For Lapras, we have the Life Orb, and then Ice Beam, Hydro Pump, Confuse Ray, and Hyper Beam. Now, the way the Water team plays out is a little bit different. So in normal type, we just obliterate everything with Porygon-Z. Simple as that. With the Fire team, we rely on the Beast Boost from Blacephalon, and we kind of have Volcorona and Charizard to clean up. With the Water team, it's a bit different. The G-Max Lapras can be used to set up screens to make sure you don't take as much damage. And then the Swampert is really good at dealing damage very quickly. Dracofish is a big damage dealer, so you can kind of get through with that. Electric team, moving on to our next type. Electric team is mostly set up on just dealing a lot of damage. I've got Tapu Koko to set up the electric terrain with Life Orb, and then Thunder Punch, Brave Bird, Giga Impact, and U-Turn. I've got Thundurus with the Reveal Glass. Thundurus being able to just deal a ton of damage, especially under electric terrain, using Discharge, but it also has Hammer Arm, Hyper Beam, and Fly. You might have already noticed I use Giga Impact and Hyper Beam a lot. That's just because they're high damage moves, and they're really good when you're Dynamaxed. And yeah, and then as the last Pokemon for Electric. I have Magnezone with Choice Specs, Flash Cannon, Discharge, Hyper Beam, and Light Screen. They can potentially set up that Light Screen. Really, Light Screen shouldn't ever really be needed, but I had a move slot spare, so it might as well. The Grass type, Grass actually plays very, very similar to Fire, but then with Kartana. Choice Scarf Kartana gets the Beast Boost on attack every single time that you defeat a Pokemon. I gave it Aerial Ace, Leaf Blade, Sacred Sword, Smart Strike just for coverage. And then, you know, after the first kill, it kind of kills everything anyway. Alternatively, I've got in the back a Tapu Bulu with Mega Horn, Wood Hammer, Brick Break, and Giga Impact, and a Trevenant with Giga Impact, Wood Hammer, Horn Leech, and Phantom Force. That should kind of kill everything if Kartana fails at killing something, or, you know, when you need something to clean up. The Ice type, very similar to the Water type here. We use that exact same G-Max Lapras, and then along with it, I use a Mamoswine, a Mamoswine with specifically Earthquake, Rock Slide, Avalanche, and Ice Shard, and then a Frostmoth with Bug Buzz, Blizzard, Air Slash, and Giga Drain. Fighting, playing out very similar to the Grass type with Buzzwole, with an Assault Vest Buzzwole with Bulk Up, Ice Punch, Lunge, and Drain Punch. This is where I use my Urshifu. Personally, I picked the Dark type Urshifu, so you'll see it in Dark type later as well. If you pick the Water type, you can use it in the Water type earlier. Really useful Pokemon with Wicked Blow, Close Combat, Iron Head, and Bulk Up. And then Terrakion. Like, really, for fighting, you have so many options because of the Swords of Justice. You can sadly not use Keldeo, but Terrakion with Sacred Swords, Swords Dance, Stone Edge, and Stomping Tantrum basically gets you through everything. So yeah, the main strategies, as you've probably already been able to tell, are either just overwhelm by sheer damage, which is what we do here. You can go for a setup team where, you know, you kind of try to set up on turn 1 and then go from there. Or you go for something a little bit more on the defensive side, like with the Ice and Water teams. Yeah, moving on to Poison. For Poison, we have a completely new team, actually, with Gengar, Toxtricity, and Nihilego. Gengar with Shadow Ball, Giga Drain, Venoshock, and Hyper Beam. Toxtricity, I would recommend specifically having the Punk Rock ability, and then having Overdrive, Boom Burst, Snarl, and Shift Gear. And for Nihilego, I like either Power Gem or Meteor Beam, depending on what you got in the Dynamax Adventure. Oh, by the way, this is what happens after 5 battles. You get 50 battle points, and that considers it as complete. And you can continue after that if you want to. So yeah, and then I have Venoshock, Hex, and Poison Spikes from there. The Poison Spikes can help, you know, get some extra damage in. Make it a little bit easier if you have to go for a more stall setup. So next up, Ground type. Ground is one of the easier types to do. Again, a ton of good options here. This is, by the way, where you'll really see how powerful Porygon-Z is. Yeah, for Ground, I use Excadrill with Smart Strike, Earthquake, Swords Dance, and Rock Slide. Garchomp with Brick Break, Stomping Tantrum, Giga Impact, and Dragon Rush. And then the exact same Swampert we used before. Flying type. I used Thundurus, the exact same as we had earlier. Articuno with Hurricane, Freezing Glare, Hyper Beam, and Recover. This is a... yeah, here you see the power, by the way. Just a not very effective Hyper Beam, just killing it. The Articuno I used for this... So the Hurricane, Freezing Glare, Hyper Beam, Recover. That is a Galarian Articuno. That is worth noting. And then as the last Pokemon, Celesteela with Giga Drain, Flash Cannon, Leech Seed, and Air Slash. And then as a leftover as an item. That's really just as a stall Pokemon. Psychic type. Psychic is a really fun one, actually. You've got Metagross, really useful. Just in general, Metagross is really powerful. Meteor Mash, Giga Impact, Hammer Arm, and Zen Headbutt. The same Articuno we had before. And then Tapu Lele with Moonblast, Psyshock, Hyper Beam, and I don't really know yet what to put for the 4th move because, like, the 3 I've already mentioned kind of get you through everything. Yeah, a couple more types to go through. I've done most of them already, but just to quickly recap the remaining types, we have the bug type with Buzzwole, Frostmoth, and Volcorona. All three I've already mentioned before. They're the exact same teams that we had earlier. The rock type with Terrakion, Nihilego, both of those I've mentioned, and then Tyranitar with Brick Break, Crunch, Earthquake, and Stone Edge. Ghost. Ghost is actually a fun one. You've got a lot of options for Ghost. Let me actually quickly make that team. Ghost is probably one of the earliest that I beat. Do I still have that team somewhere? I might not. If I don't, I'll just explain it and we'll just move on. Yeah, but for Ghost, I have Spectrier, Dracopult, and Blacephalon. Spectrier works very similar in that because of the ability it has, it gains a +1 special attack every single time it kills something. So it works very similar to like the Blacephalon team and the Kartana team. And then you have Blacephalon and Dracopult in the back. So really that's one of the more powerful teams, in my opinion. Really, really useful if you know how to use it well. Okay, maybe I might already have them set, actually. I might have a team made for them. I'm gonna check that real quick. Yeah, you see on this file... I actually... Okay, yeah, I didn't set that up. Yeah, on this file I used Trevenant instead of Blacephalon, but Blacephalon just does just that little bit better. But yeah, and then Dragon, the Garchomp and Dracopult, and the Dracofish, all we've mentioned before. Dark type, I used Urshifu, because Urshifu is just really useful, and then I've used Obstagoon and Tyranitar. Like at this point, you'll probably have started to notice I'm pretty much using the same Pokemon that I've used in earlier teams just because those Pokemon are really useful. And that's, I think, something you want to generally do. I think you probably want a lot of dual-type Pokemon. Just so you don't have to train a lot. You don't have to worry about stats a lot. You can just use those. So for Steel-type, Kartana, Excadrill, and Celesteela, what we've mentioned before. And the Fairy-type, Tapu Lele, Tapu Bulu, Tapu Koko. I figured the Tapus are probably just the best for the Fairy-type. So yeah, you've got, of course, a lot of options to play around with those teams. Items that are generally really good are things like the Life Orb, the Choice Band, Choice Specs, Choice Scarf, Leftovers, really anything that helps you survive and helps you kill things fast. And I think all of those kind of do that well. So yeah, I hope that kind of gave you an idea. All of these teams will be in the description below, so you can have a look. Feel free to build these teams. Feel free to leave your teams in the comments. I know there have been a lot of people that have used similar or completely different teams. For example, for Buck, I know, for example, my sister, she used a Durant, I think, which apparently was really powerful. So there's a ton of other options. So be sure to leave them in the comments if you have them. I hope they give you an idea as to how you can approach something like Restricted Sparring. And I hope it'll make it a little bit easier for you to, complete this. Because as a reward for completing all of them, you can actually get another piece of clothes, which is kind of cool that they did that. Yeah, that's it from me. If you like to see more about Pokemon speedrunning, more about just Pokemon in general, I do a lot of Pokemon stuff over here and over on my Twitch. That'll be in the description as well. You guys know how to do all the YouTube stuff already. Let's be fair. This is not your first time on YouTube, so I'm not gonna go over that too much. And yeah, have a great day, everyone, and hope to see you guys back next time when we're probably gonna do the recap video for the Pokemon Sword and Shield 100%.